Kennedy, tell me some things that are working right now that you're seeing with email marketing to actually deliver more sales.
There's a bunch of things. The first thing I think we definitely have to be looking at is what I call offer persistence. Most people will join your email list, and then what you've got in place is maybe a couple of emails that tell people about your main offer, and then you sort of move on. The truth is, people take a lot longer than any of us are basically doing right now to understand your offer, really understand its importance to them. So sticking with it, talking about your offer for longer is one of the biggest keys to making more sales with your emails of that main product. So if you've got I call it your Rome offer, all roads lead to Rome, the main thing you want everybody to be buying from you. So for us, it's a program called Email Hero Blueprint. I'm going to talk about that Email Hero Blueprint for days and days and days and days and days, rather than, hey, during my welcome email, by the way, we've got this thing, and then I'm moving on to something else. Offer persistence. Stick with the offer. That's the first thing. Second thing is to really repackage the offer. We all buy different stuff for different reasons, right? So I might go into I remember actually I was in JD Sports the other week. I go in and I see some On sneakers, some trainers, right? We call them trainers in the UK, don't we? Sneaks for the rest of the world, right? I go and see some Ons, and like £160 trainers, right? So they're premium price trainers, and they've got this brand new design. I've been thinking about getting Ons for ages. I keep seeing people who I admire wearing them. I'm like, man, they're so cool. I get quite sore feet. I've heard they're really comfortable. So I've been receiving all this content, all this context and social proof to buy these Ons, and I buy them and they're £160. But at the same time, on the shelf next to me are some Adidas Gazelles in the sale for 30 quid, for £30, and I buy them as well. Think about that. What's happening there? The same one human being, I'm in the same shop buying the same thing, sneakers, and I buy two different pairs for very, very different psychological motivators. One of them is for premium experience, the Ons. The other one is because there was a discount. Two of the same product for very different reasons. So when we're presenting our products, our offers, our services, our things that we do, our coaching programs, remember there are people on our email list who are buying these things for different reasons. So if you will have a default that you always default to making your offer from. It might be discount. It might be exclusivity. I only take on X number of clients a month. Or it might be, it could be any of these reasons. You will have a default. The thing is, that's your bias. And that bias might be based on what's worked for you in the past, or what you think's going to work, or what you see other people doing, or how you buy. It might be whatever the bias is. But psychologically, our people are each going to buy for different reasons at different times. So I might be in a bit of a pinch. I might have just paid a huge tax bill, but my sneakers just fell apart on my feet. I'm going to be like, what's on sale? Great, $30 Gazelles? I'm in. But other times I might have just made a whopping big sale or brought on a brand new client. I might be like, what can I splash the cash on? Different times, different offers, different people, different motivators. They're two really huge things. And the reason they're really important right now, and more important than they've ever been, is because the cost of new leads is getting higher. And the cost of new leads is getting higher, one, because the platforms are getting more expensive, but two, because the skepticism against marketing is higher. So even when you do get them on your list and they cost more to get on your list, your conversion rates are probably lower because we're all bombarded with more messages. We're all more skeptic. Oh, he says it's on sale, it's going to go away tonight, but we'll see, because I've been tricked by that BS before. So the cost of conversion is higher, and that's why we need to be doing more to do with actually converting the people we've got on our lists.
And that's all for tonight, folks.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
done. I'm out.
That is tremendous. Right. So I took a note of both of those because I think that there's probably loads of practical steps within each of these here. So offer persistence. So how long are you talking about the offer for? And I'll throw in a second one in there as well, which is how directly are you speaking about the offer? So if it's a 15-day sequence or a 30-day sequence or whatever you're going to say about point number one, how much of that is like, this is an email directly about the offer and calling them to action versus one that might be story based or, something else that alludes to the product and you mention it?
Mm. The best way to actually talk about these is actually combining this rewrapping of the offer with persistence, because the best way of being able to persist talking about an offer is to keep redressing it in new clothes. Because if you just keep saying the same thing over and over again, people stop opening your emails because they're like, I know what you're going to talk about. And also, if you don't keep redressing it in new clothes, you also don't have anything new to say, and you are not appealing to different people. So you kind of have to do both. And doing one allows you to do the other. So like these two things, like, you know, the difference between tactics and strategy is a strategy is a thing that allows you to link tactics together. These are two tactics, but the strategic element of them is they actually work perfectly together. And by the way, the number one reason people's email marketing underperforms is because they're usually grabbing email templates, or they're using that particular sequence or that tactic, and they're grabbing all these different tactics from all over the place, sequences, things you should say, this kind of subject line, this is what your from name should be, put this in your footer, all these different things, this kind of call to action always works, da-da-da-da-da, right? Use emojis, don't use emojis, like all this stuff. They're trying to put all these different tactics together into their emails, and, well, they don't work because they were never designed to go together. That's like expecting to go to the thrift store or the charity shop and grab 6 different jigsaw puzzles and grabbing a piece out of each box and expecting to get home be able to put a picture together. You're trying to put different jigsaw puzzle pieces together from different puzzles to make a picture. It's never gonna look like Mordor, because it wasn't designed to look like it. It was supposed to be, you've got a picture of like the top corner of the Disney princess house, and you've got like Goofy's right ear, and it's just a mess. It looks like some kind of absurdist painting, which is not what you're looking for. You're trying to get it to work together. So that's the reason most people's email marketing is not working. They're frustrated by it, because they're trying to, you know, if I just did part of your method for of Facebook ads, it's not going to work. You have to use the whole process. It has to be a process. It's like most people, they go, oh, I'm trying this person's sales sequence, this person's welcome sequence, and they're not converting. And I'm like, okay, well, let's put it this way. You've basically taken the bits that you like of a strategy and put them together, and you end up with nobody's strategy. You've got a Frankenstein's monster. You don't have a strategy, right? So this is a problem. Back to your actual question, because the tangentialness is real here. So I will answer your actual question, mate, I promise. So what we're going to do to talk about your offer for longer is we're going to make sure there's a reason to open your emails. The number one reason people stop opening your emails is because they don't think they need to anymore. And what I mean by that is the moment somebody can assume they know what's going to happen in your email, that's the time they need to stop opening your emails. You never know what I'm going to do in my emails. I'll do stupid shit. I once had an email I sent out, and I was like, I just wanted to tell this story. I had no call to action because I was like just between 2 offer launches. I was about to transition to something else I was doing. And so I thought, well, I'll put something funny in. I'll put a link in which says, do not click this link. So it was like just any old story, and the link was like, do not click this link. And they clicked it, and it went to this gif of me saying, I told you not to click it, you rebel. You know, so just again, because what does that do? Well, it gives us an emotional response. And if that emotional response is positive, what happens when you see my name in your email inbox? You remember that emotional response and you associate it with me rather than that other prat who sends terrible emails or is trying to scam you. But if somebody knows that every time you send an email, you're going to be talking about that course, that program, that enrollment is now open, then they don't need to open your emails. They just need to see your email pop in their email inbox. They see your name and they go, oh yeah, he's the guy, she's the girl, that's the person who has. Your open rate can stay low, which means it doesn't matter how good the copy is. It doesn't matter how great and how much effort and how much time, how much love and passion you've put into that email. It's not going to get seen because they don't need to see it. Whereas, if you've got no idea what the hell is Kennedy going to say in that email next, is he going to be really sweary and really offensive? Is he going to do another innuendo and try and squeeze the word sausage into there somehow? Yes, by the way, he is, right? Then you want to keep your Do you ever seen those people for like productivity and attention, that those wobble stools that they sit on, where like you have to, like, it's like a thing for your posture where it's like a
I've
stool but
never
it only
seen
has.
that, but that sounds hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah, but like it's literally you're sort of sitting down, but if you put your feet off the ground, you are going to be on your face on the floor. Like it's to kind of keep your core. Like people stand on these wobble boards as well. It's the same. We want to make sure that your audience is constantly wobbled. Now, the way we do that is not through your offer, but it's about all the things we do around the offer. So, for example, if I just showed up every day for 30 days and said, by the way, I've got this great program, it's the A to Z of email marketing, it's going to help you to outcome, there's not going to be many days until you go, okay, I get it, mate, I get it. Okay, when I'm ready for that, I'll buy it. Because the only reason to open my emails at that point is to find out what I'm selling. So the only reason you open those emails from Amazon is to find out what the deal is. What's the deal of the day? What's the special offer of the week? What's the thing that they've selected for you? If you're that person, then yes, the great news about those type of emails, by the way, is they are high intent emails. So your open rate might be low, but your conversion rate's going to be high, because the only reason to open your emails is to find out what I can buy from you. That is a way of working. It's not the best way. You want to have like this kind of nice balance where you also want to have another reason to open your emails. And that other reason is to hear the story, is to hear what you're going to say next, to reveal the next part of the narrative. And that's when it gets really, really interesting. And what's really interesting about telling stories in your emails, and you might be thinking, oh, well, I'm not a storyteller, I'm not very good at telling stories. I can tell you now, you've been telling stories your entire life. Every time you think back to that thing that happened, you're telling yourself stories in your mind. That's how your brain works, right? So you are good at telling stories, and I'll give you some shortcuts on actually how to make anything into a story. It's one simple thing you can do in any bit of content, social media, email, whatever, to make it instantly a story. And remind me to tell you about that in a second, because it's insanely simple. It's kind of embarrassing. But what you can do is you can, instead of like running out of things to say about your product or your service, is you can tell stories which lead into your product or service. Right? And you will never run out of stories. So there might only be 20 benefits of your product or service. That might be 20 emails, great. There might be a bunch of like 5 or 6 reasons to buy, discount, bonus, trial, like whatever. There's a finite number of them, but there is an unlimited number of stories you can tell to lead into those offers, which means you're never going to actually run out of things to say. So one of the things I do is I tell a story in most of my emails, and I just think about, here's the mind hack for coming up with a story. The mind hack I use is just to ask myself, one of the story prompts I use is, what's the least boring thing that happened in the last 24 hours? Notice that I didn't say what's the most interesting thing, because your brain's a dick to you sometimes, and it will say nothing interesting ever happens to me. But if you say what's the least boring thing, your brain will go, well, that was the least boring thing, and it might have just been that you tripped up when you're walking down the stairs. That's okay. Or your cat puked on the carpet, like happened to me yesterday. But what's really interesting about these stories is they build rapport, they build trust, they make you relatable. And that's the really important thing about these stories. They should not be, I was driving my Lambo. They don't have to be these excruciatingly big things. In fact, the smaller, the more relatable things, the better, because the person now sees you on par with them in every part of your life, apart from the thing you're an expert in, which you want to be just slightly ahead of them in. But if you can be on par with them, psychologically speaking, and everything else, they're just like you, which means doing what you want them to do is way more achievable. So I'm going to tell a story. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I absolutely love that. Like as you're saying it, I'm like picturing like what the stories would be like. Boring to most, but it's actually the least boring part of the day, and
you're not looking for exciting, because those stories every now and again, hey, we just went on we just did this really cool thing. I was just on stage with Stephen Bartlett, so I was speaking at this event on stage with Stephen Bartlett last year. Did I write an email about that? You're damn right I did. Of course I did. But was it relatable? No. You want most of your stories to be relatable. At that point, every now and again, you can pop in something which is, wow, that's great. Hey, we just flew business class to this mastermind, which cost 60 grand in Florida. Relatable for most of my audience? No. But it has a different function.
Yeah.
That makes sense? Whereas most of the time, I'm talking about my cat puked all over the living room yesterday morning. People are like, oh my God, this guy is normal. Like, he's got normal shit going on. I don't, like, have people who sort that out for me. No, I don't. Of course I don't. I'm the guy poop scooping the cats every morning, or whatever. Or, I'm trying to figure out which new cell phone provider to go with. Relatable. The only thing, psychologically speaking, to really convert people in any medium, the only thing you want to be superior, and I use air quotes there, the only thing you want to be ahead in the book on is the one thing you do, that you help them with, that you teach, that you coach them through. Because that gives them this idea of it's possible. It's possible for me because I also have a pet, because I also have, I have this situation. I have a phone contract. We learn all these things. We go, oh, great. So the only thing that is the difference between me and them, and they're successful, think about what that picture is. We are exactly the same, apart from I'm, in my case, making more money than maybe my audience are. And the only difference is that I'm really good at email marketing. Well, what is the indirect suggestion of that? If I learn to be really good at email marketing, then I will also have those things which I see as aspirational from that person. So do you see how so my background is psychology, right? So that's how I think. I talk about in email marketing, I use psychology, not technology. That's what it's really about. It's about the human beings, right?
Yeah. You see, with the story-based emails that I put out, which are not frequent enough by any means, because I do a lot of YouTube stuff, a high proportion of emails that I put out are actually directing people to content, and then maybe there's stories within there, I guess. But actual like story-based content, I would say, is once a week, and albeit that I do a little bit of, like, I got this from Rich years ago in one of his videos about sending emails at least 6 days a week, but segmenting so only the highest engaged get multiple emails. But the story-based emails will be once per week. They're always the ones with the replies. They're the ones where people start conversations back.
Because we can emote with that. We can have an emotional connection with stories. We can't emote unless it's a story, because facts don't have feelings. Right? Facts don't have feelings. Stories emote because we are. Look, the reason when you go to the cinema, when you go to the movie theater, and you are watching a film, the reason you are afraid, the reason you laugh, the reason you cry, the reason you are inspired, the reason you feel anything is because what a story does. And what a story does is it puts you into the action. When we tell a story, we can't help as human beings but put ourselves in that place. When we watch the winner of America's Got Talent and all the stuff, the confetti comes down, we have this heightened state. Why? We don't know that person. We're not getting the money or that amazing contract. But what we do is we feel how good must that person feel. We can't help but first person an experience like that. Which is why we feel anything when we see an experience. So when we do that in an email, what happens is we first person it. We get our audience to imagine our frustration, our delight, our sadness, whatever it's going to be. I remember 2 years ago, I lost my dad. I was very close to my dad. I actually moved to this house to be close to my dad in his later years. He was 80 years old. He used to drive me around when I was a gigging entertainer and a keynote speaker. My dad would drive me around since I was 18 years old, and we were really close. We used to spend late hours just stuck in the car chatting about all stuff. Losing my dad was one of the hardest things that ever happened to my life. And when I told my audience about this, what do you know what the response would be? That's what's important. Even before I tell you what the response was, right now, everybody watching and listening to this knows exactly what the response was. Why? Because you're feeling it too. You're feeling that response. You're feeling that I got replies from people saying, oh my God, I'm really sorry. I've been through something similar. It's one of my biggest fears. people just reach out and are amazing. And people are reaching out with their emotions at all times, even when they're not replying, even when it's not something heartbreaking. That's happening all the time. And that only happens through shared experience of life events. But the good news is you get to choose which life events. There's some of my life events that I've never shared in an email. And I don't ever plan on sharing in an email, right? But that's where you get to choose the line too.
Excellent. With, you said the one thing. Oh no, actually, that's actually just a note I took. You said you can turn anything into a story and to come back to it. So,
Yeah,
what's the formula for that?
it's really simple. It's honestly stupidly simple to turn anything into a story and to make anything that you were trying to be a story much more immersive and emotional. And all you need to do that is give it a location. As soon as you even imply a location, it is now a story. Because something that was just a fact, but then you give it a location, is immediately now a story, because it's now a scene in our heads. And that could be, hey, I'm just standing. So one of the things, when I send my email each day, I stand at my kitchen bench. I switch the kettle on to make my first cup of tea in the morning. I'm an early morning person. I'm really annoying. 5 o'clock in the morning, I switch the kettle on. And as that kettle boils to brew my first cup of tea of the day, I write my daily email, standing at the kitchen bench. I hit send and I shut the laptop and I have my cup of tea. So I've told you a bunch of stuff there that we can relate to. I am an early morning person or I'm a late person. It doesn't matter. But we've related that we both get out of bed at some point. I wish I was an early morning person, or I hate early morning people. We're having now emotions. You can now imagine me, I'm standing in a kitchen. It's now a story. Compare that to this. Every day I send an email. That's just a fact. But by telling you where it was, it's now a story. It doesn't even have to be I was in the kitchen. So a different way of telling that story is, as I opened the fridge and took out the milk, I was thinking about what my daily email was going to be. Well, you know that's the kitchen. Unless you're really fancy, you've got like a fridge in your billiards room or something. But I'm probably in the kitchen, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to, it can be an implied location. It doesn't have to be the whole location either. You know, it could be, you could imply the locations. The refrigerator is a really, really good one. It's a really simple example. You could just say, well, what was I doing? Like I'm sat at the dining table. Where am I then? I'm probably in the dining room, right? Or I'm sat on the sofa. But I know where you are. I know exactly where you are. It smells of weird plastic and metal and sweat, but I'm going to lift this barbell off the floor anyway. I'm definitely in the gym. So I think give something a location, it instantly becomes a story. So if you're ever thinking, I really want to tell them this fact in my email, how do I make it emotional so that we'll remember it? Because remember, we remember stories. We don't really remember facts. Like if I said to you, give me the 15-part formula for a really good sales page, you'd probably have to look it up. Where if I asked you to tell me the story about the time that you heard one of your teachers at school swear by accident, or you first learned a teacher's first name, or the time when you all were handed out dictionaries at school and everyone looked up the word sex. Like we can all remember these common experiences as stories.
That's a core memory right there.
Yeah, right. And then it was penis. We know. But but so we remember stories because they actually physically, like neurologically, take up more space in our brains. That's why. We are all still telling stories of stuff that happened years ago, decades ago sometimes. But we can't remember the list of any of the things that, we need to keep looking up or we were looking up at the time. Because stories literally take up more space and they're also more enjoyable to share.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if this was just a personal thing, and I don't know if it's anything that you've considered before, but as you said each of those scenarios, so you said the kitchen, you said the fridge, you said the couch, it was almost impossible for me not to imagine it in my house. Not me doing it, but you. Like, you opening my
And then your
fridge.
brain goes, why is he in my house?
Exactly. It was pretty weird, but,
Yeah.
like, whenever you want to come round, it's cool.
Cheers, dude.
So,
Yeah, but we do that. We sort of. But what's nice as well is if you reveal a story in such a way that you can say. So one of the things you don't want to do is this. Let me give you an example of this. Oh, my mum, she's bought this awful, disgusting new sofa. It's horrible, right? It's one of those which has got like it's got like a floral design over it, and she's got way too many cushions. The problem with that is, if your listener or viewer or reader of this has a floral couch and it's got lots of cushions on it, you've just told them you hate their couch. Whereas if I just say, my mum has the most disgusting sofa, you know the type I'm talking about. It's just every single thing about it makes me want to be sick. You're in your head now deciding what that looks like. Your definition of horrible. Your definition of beautiful. Your definition of long haul. Whatever that's going to be. And what that means is it becomes a personal story for you. So it then becomes your world, not just your house, but it's like it's within your world. Again, which means you can emote to it. Whereas if I create a disconnect, which is it's a floral sofa and you like floral sofas, then we've got this disconnect, and now you are taken out of the action.
that. That's dynamite. And so I suppose biggest first takeaway from this is all about using stories more frequently in your emails. Of course, the practicalities of how to use it as well. Outside of the story side of things, is there any common styles of emails that are like essential for you that you use?
Yeah, I think one of my favorites, and that a lot of people are now using from me, are my story lesson offer framework. And that is, you start off telling the story, which is the least boring thing that happened in the last 24 hours, is just one of my story prompts that I use, right? It might be, I talked about the time that your teacher at school swore, or there's these different things, relatable things. I call them story prompts. The second phase of that is that story, which means you can't run out of those. You've got unlimited numbers of those. The next is lesson, and that is, what is the valuable lesson that is in that story that your audience needs to hear? So if you're a weight loss coach and you've just told the story of your cat was just puking all over the living room, what is the relatable lesson there? And that is, it could be anything. It could be one of the biggest challenges with continuing on your weight loss journey is life throws up unexpected things, like your cat pukes all over the living room and you haven't got time to do today's healthy food prep. So that is the lesson. And I'm just making this up on the fly. I haven't prepared this, but it's not nuanced at all, right? So we had the story. We've now had the lesson. They go, oh, then we're going to make an offer. And that offer might be, go watch my YouTube video. It might be download this free report. It might be the waitlist to my program just opened up. It might be go click buy this course. It might be come to this webinar. Whatever the offer's going to be, that call to action. What's really fascinating about using this story lesson offer framework is it eliminates a lot of the cognitive load, a lot of the mental calories that we usually have to burn, which is trying to figure out if today's a day when I have to sort of come up with some value to give to the audience, or do I dare ask them to do something? Do I dare make an offer today? Is today a value day or an offer day? Well, stories have value in them, and we've just talked about there's multiple values within stories. Not least just purely entertainment, because we're all nosy and voyeuristic in that way. So, we all pay for way too many television subscriptions these days with your Netflix and your Prime and all these different services. So we know there is definitely value in entertainment and reality and seeing inside someone else's life. So that's one piece of value, definitely highly valuable. I mean, I have people come to events when I'm speaking at events or whatever, and they'll say, oh, how are your cats, Nova and Ivy? Because they feel like they know me. They'll know that they're Bengal cats. So they'll be like, oh, I've got a Maine Coon, I've got a, whatever. And then I haven't talked about this. Or the fact that I've never eaten an egg. True. I've eaten eggs cooked into cakes and pies and stuff, obviously, but I don't even know what an egg tastes like. I've never looked at an egg and thought, wow, I want to put that in my mouth. Never thought of that, right? So, so again, people will come to me and go, they will after this podcast. The people are like, what, you've never eaten an egg? No, true. Also think mushrooms are evil because it's a fungus and you wouldn't eat athlete's foot. Like, there's all these things. I always wear odd socks. I never wear a matching pair of socks, ever. I once did about 2 weeks ago after, I don't know, I'm now 40 years old, and I had to take them off immediately and switch it. So there's all these little quirks that people identify with and go, oh, he's crazy. Like, what's wrong with this guy? But so these quirks, but we all have these quirks. This is telling people we all have these quirks. Like, there's a certain fork I like to use when I'm making like batter for Yorkshire puddings or pancakes. You know, weird quirks we all have. Anyway, people come to you, and there's value in these stories by talking about your quirks, being quirky. You don't have to be quirky for quirky's sake, or being relatable. Great. There's value. Lots of different value in stories. Then the lesson is a piece of value. It is raw, unfiltered value. It is the lesson, the moral, the tale, the thing they need to learn, the moment of, it doesn't have to be like, aha, wow, my mind is blown. It has to just be, I hadn't thought about that. That's interesting. Well, that's an interesting way of putting it. Just to drip, drip, drip that messaging. So they're getting value from that. You've just delivered minimum two pieces of value by doing story and lesson. Which means when you then say, and if you want to, you can, and I'll show you the formula for this in a second, when you make an offer, there's already a ratio of 2-to-1 value to offer in that email. So I can do that every single day. I don't have to worry about, is today value or is today offer? It is both. And it's always going to have more value than offer it's going to have in. And it means that when the person is ready to buy, the link is there for them to buy. Not just when I'm ready to sell.
Love that. It is 100% of your daily emails story lesson, call to action. Is that your framework?
Not 100%. I would say 90%. If we are in launch mode for an offer, we'll do some other stuff. So we'll often do like what we call a seed email, which is like where you say, hey, I've just put this new video up online. I think you should go check it out. We will do that kind of thing too. And also towards the end of an offer, closing, if there's like a finite time, if it's like a limited time or a limited quantity offer, then we will do, so we'll do more like informative notification style emails as well. Just want to finish off that point about the offer. Because because a lot of people do struggle with how do I get from lesson into offer. So the cheat code for this, and everything I do, every framework that I use, every framework that we teach, everything is about really finding the cheat codes, because it makes it doable every day or as often as you want, right? That's what it's about. It's having that framework. So this framework is really simple because your offer just needs to look at what you said the lesson was, that bit you just wrote, and how do you make it easier, faster, or more likely to be successful? So we just said in that fitness example that it was Nova, the cat, the Bengal cat, puked all over the living room. And the lesson is sometimes life throws curveballs that you can't control, whether it's your cat, your kid, or a parent or something, a thing happening, and you haven't got time to meal prep. Let's say my offer is I actually deliver pre-prepped meals to people's homes. Well, that's going to be about making it faster, and it's going to be making it easier. Faster, easier, more likely to be successful, right? So I'm going to say, hey, if you want to make it easier to not even have to think about this, even if your cat does puke up all over the place, we can imagine that just there was a knock on the door at this lunchtime, and it was someone handing you a ready-to-microwave meal. That makes it easier. It could be more likely to be successful. If you and you just pick which one today it's going to be, because most of them will work most of the time. Will likely to be successful. So rather than being thrown off course with your meal prep, you can use our servers, and you'll be more likely to be successful on staying on course with your program. Sorry, I got distracted there because my camera's gone, oh man.
Give me a little bit of a snapshot of the way that you look at automations, sequences when people are onboarding. Is it, let's just say, lead magnets in general, to keep it simple, not like masterclasses or anything, but just like giving away a freebie, you join the email list. Are you looking at it like it's 7 days or 700 days? Are you looking at it like it's a daily touch point or every 3 days? Like, what are you thinking there?
What I think we have to think about is we think about the psychology of the person joining, right? The first mistake I think people have is when somebody joins your email list, think about what is their expectation. Because if your lead magnet says, hey, come get my awesome free thing, give us your email address, I'll send it to you. Great. They put their email address in. What's their expectation? Their expectation of this transaction is they've paid for that thing, that PDF, with the currency of that was their email address. So all they're expecting is you to send them the thing. End of transaction. The loop is closed. I have paid with my email address. You've sent me the PDF. Don't bother me again. So the expectation has ended at that point. So one of the things I do, I was working with a client just last week, and she was having some issues around high unsubscribe and complaint rates. And when I say high, I'm talking about 1 per 1,000. That is classed as high for most email platforms. So we immediately implemented a bunch of stuff, and we reduced it by 45% in 11 days. Just by implementing some of this stuff. One of the first things is on that newsletter, on that lead magnet sign up page, we're going to set the expectation that they're going to hear from you ongoing. And the way you do that, and it also helps you with a little bit of compliance as well, to be fair. So I'm not a lawyer, I'm not frankly qualified in anything, but if you set up the expectation of what's going to happen once they've joined your list, there is that expectation. So instead of, hey, get my fancy lead magnet, give us your email address, it's like, hey, get this thing, and you'll also receive my weekly newsletter, which helps you with this thing. Sell them on the value, because as I've just been saying, it is valuable of being on your newsletter. So there is an expectation. It's not a surprise when they start receiving your emails, because nobody likes surprises. Nobody likes surprises. Like, everybody hates them. So don't make it a surprise of another email. Also, it's quite nice when you're upfront about it, because if you're not, people these days do know that's probably what's going to happen when you get their email address. So they quite like the fact that you're upfront about the fact that they're going to get emails from you, especially if you now tell them the benefit of those things. So in our case, download this cool free thing, and you'll also receive my daily tips to your email inbox to help you make more sales from your existing subscribers. Who doesn't want that?
Yeah, that's great. And so you're doing that initially on opt-in or in the first email, or both?
Both, yeah, both. So on opt-in, so like on the actual landing page, the opt-in page used to be called a squeeze page, that's where you're doing it. Then your first email is going to be like, hey, awesome, welcome, good news, that thing I promised you, that PDF, that's linked to you down below. And of course, tomorrow I'm going to be in touch again with another tip to help you with the thing you really want help with. Because let's remember why anybody is actually on your email list. They're not on there because they haven't got many friends and they want more emails. They're not on there because they collect emails because they think they're Pokemon. They're on there because they've got a problem, and the belief from what you've shown them on your landing page and ads that you might be able to finally solve the problem. So if that's the case, they want your help. Don't hold back on these people. Show up. Help them. So when you realize that's the intention someone comes into your email list with, you will show up. You will help people. You will show up more regularly. So that's the first thing is we're going to, 1, set expectation. 2, on that first email, tell them what's going to happen next. The next thing I like to do, we have a welcome sequence that we install for our clients called the Trust Accelerator. Because actually I realized the quicker we can get people to consume more of our content, to go deeper with us, the quicker they will buy. Somebody who's listened to our podcast, the Email Marketing Show, for a year, once they come into my email list, they are buying within a day or so. Because they've already spent time. We've already had that level of trust. So I sat around and thought, how do I accelerate the trust that somebody has with me? How do I move that faster? So here's one of the elements of that Trust Accelerator sequence. They join the email list, they receive the thing they opted in for, and they're straight into this Trust Accelerator sequence, which is 1 email a day for 4 days. But here's the really cool thing. At the end of email 1, what a lot of people do, which is a pretty good idea, by the way, you should do this, is they'll say, hey, and watch out for tomorrow's email, because in tomorrow's email, I'm going to teach you and show you how to big, exciting, sexy thing. It's called an open loop. It's enticing. It's exciting. So that's sort of standard. That's normal practice. That's fine. People have been doing that for years. But how do we accelerate it? How do we make it better? How do we take it onto something that's really impactful now in this year? And the way you do that is with the next line, which is, don't want to wait till tomorrow? Click here and get tomorrow's email now. So they can click a link and they go, and then the next email is sent immediately. What's now happening? They are binging your welcome sequence. They're binging your content. You've just installed the equivalent of the watch next episode button on Netflix into your emails. That's what gave me the idea, by the way. How do we take the Netflix binge mentality, the same thing they use on YouTube to get you to watch the next video, and they're saying, hey, if you want to watch a video about this, click here. If you want to watch a video about that, click this other thumbnail. The same mentality in emails. Because now we have people going through our entire 4-day welcome sequence in 20 minutes. And what happens to those people? They are immersed. They are binging us. And if those emails also happen to contain a link to a podcast, to your YouTube channel, to this thing, and connect with me on Instagram, you're now surrounding them and immersing them. And what we're doing here is accelerating trust.
Amazing. And do they get the next day's email as it is, or is there any sort of tailoring, like, and by the way, because you were somebody who clicked the link, you can get X, Y, and Z, and maybe something maybe feels a little bit more special?
No, I really want to. What I'm promising in that email is you are getting tomorrow's email today. Gotcha. And I even put, like, you want to make sure it's your personality. So in mine, I have, did I just invent time travel? And when they click the link, they go to like a GIF of the DeLorean or something. You know, like it's like. So I make sure it's like got my person. That's not going to fit everybody. It's just because I'm crazy and it's my personality. But again, that's important to put your personality in there. And when I say put your personality in there, I don't mean be wacky and irreverent. If you're not, if you're sincere, make it sincere. If you are serious, be serious. If you are motivational, be motivational. Don't feel like you have to be quirky because you like reading other people's quirky emails, and that's not who you are. I'm not quirky every day. Some days I'm feeling quirky, some days I'm feeling inspiring, some days I'm just pissed off. And that's what you get. By writing an email every day, you get to feel the dimensionalized version of me. You don't get if I just written my emails for the rest of the year, you would get the mood I was in when I batch made them. Whereas today I've got a bit of a headache, so I'm feeling like a bit grouchy, so you're going to get grouchy Kennedy. The next day you're going to get inspiring Kennedy. The one after that, he's thought of something funny to say, so he's put... Well, the people we love and we spend time with, we know the multifacets of their personality, and that's what allows us to love them, right? That's how the psychology of relationships works, is the depth, rather than this, I'm just a dude smoking cigars and driving around in Lambos. Like, that's one-dimensional. We don't believe it. We don't trust it. We have to do more than that these days. So that's why I want to accelerate trust acceleration. So it is legitimately just the next email.
I love that. That's tremendous. And if that's a 4-dayer, after that, are they going straight into daily emails, or is there the next part of the automation sequence?
Yes, the next part is our next main framework, which is to appeal to the 5 psychological buyer types. Last time I was talking earlier about the sneakers. There's different reasons we're going to buy. When someone joins your email list, everybody who's wandering around, actually, even before they join your email list, they're wandering around in various stages. You've got some people who are what I call the urgent buyer. The urgent buyer is the person who hops into the emergency room with their leg hanging off and the blood splurting up the walls, going, oh my God, fix me. What most people do with their email marketing is the equivalent of the doctor surgeon coming over, sitting them down and saying, "Hi, let me tell you how I got into medical school. My parents, they were doctors," and you're like, "Dude, I'm going to bleed to death here." What happens is we nurture people to death. We nurture the people who are waving the cash in our faces, who have the urgent problem to solve, and we say, "No, you can't give us money yet because we need to nurture you." Stop it, please. Right? Those people, it's a small percentage. There's 3% of our audience is ready to buy now. Let them buy. Don't penalize the most urgent people, which is what most people are doing. So the first sequence we have is what we call a sales-led sequence. I'm going to give you our framework. It's called the SCORE framework. Everything I do is a framework, right? Because it helps us to implement them, repeat them, and make and be successful when you repeat the things that work. So, S in SCORE is sales-led sequence. Hey, this is the thing we've got. Here's the sales page. If you're ready to go, if you're bleeding out, come join it. So that's for people who are like, "I just need to get my email marketing done, man. Like, I know I've got leads coming in. Every day they're dying off." Because every day someone joins your email list, they're getting less and less engaged. Think about your own behavior. You join someone's email list, they're the best things since sliced bread. They are hot as chips at that point. They're the nicest person. You're going to look for their emails. But like a few days later, you start opening every other email, and a few days after that, that's what everyone's doing. You're doing it, I'm doing it, they're doing it, everyone's doing it. So we want to make sure that in the first few days of our relationship with a new subscriber, we take that attention they're giving us and accelerate it and do something with it. So S, sales-led sequence. That's what we're going to begin with. Here is an introduction to the offer. Here's what it is. Go to the sales page. That's for our urgent buyer type of person. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Do you still loop the story framework into that, or is this a lot more like direct, let's focus on you for a couple of days and then go back to stories and
It's
different
kind of a
bits?
combo. Like the very beginning of that sequence is usually quite direct. Like, hey, if you've got this problem, I think you're going to really like this solution. And then the middle of that campaign, it's like a 6-day campaign usually of automation. So it's going to be like, yeah, in the middle of it, you're going to do some more storytelling, and then towards the end of it, you're going to give some more like proof.
Good. Happy days. And did you end up going with? I remember when we caught up. And by the way, for anybody listening, this was just like we just ended up bouncing ideas on Zoom calls like every couple of weeks. Didn't want to sell each other anything. It was literally just like, "Hey, do you want to just like
Just
jump on a
hang
Zoom
out.
call?" It was like a first date from Tinder. And then we ended up on a call, and then we were on WhatsApp, and we bounce ideas, and we just jump on calls and say, "I'm seeing this is working. I'm seeing this is working." It's great. I wish more people in the industry would have relationships like this where
No
like
agenda.
there's no agenda. It's literally like, let's just share what's working, and it's great for everybody. But you shared with me, I think it was maybe on the first one or the second call that we had, that you were doing things with private podcasts and putting them into email sequences. Are you still doing bits and pieces with that?
Yeah, so that's in the very first of the Trust Accelerator emails. So the
Ah,
very first
great.
Trust Accelerator email, one of the ways they can connect is one is like is the podcast, like a private podcast. Another one is our free Facebook group called the Email Marketing Show Community. So we just say, hey, click here or go to Facebook, search for our free group. It's called the Email Marketing Show Community. Come and join and hang out there. And then the actual one of the other options in there is to actually go and buy the product.
Great.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Do you do stuff with YouTube as well?
We're actually about to start. We're actually in the process. We're just in pre-production of actually moving to a YouTube first podcast and stripping the audio. So we're about to do that.
Yeah. Happy days. Excellent. Okay, well, before we wrap up, is there anything outside of email marketing, a bit like our normal calls, that you're seeing right now is something that's either exciting that you're trialing, or just doing and seeing that it's working? Is there anything like that comes to mind?
Yeah, I think one of the things I'm seeing more and more is just when people are looking at like I think there's two main things. I think the first one is getting people to pay to see your main sales presentation is a thing that I'm seeing more and more.
Hmm.
So that's like doing a little paid workshop or a multi-day event that people pay a small amount to, which ultimately leads to making an offer. I think that's working really, really well. Definitely making some kind of commitment to seeing the sales presentation. So that might be, rather than going like from an ad or whatever to straight to a sales video, a VSL, it might be they have to opt in before they can watch the VSL. Or it might, so because that was a trend, it went away and it seems to be coming back. And again, like this idea of people used to run challenges, but like make your challenge paid for. That's what we're currently testing, like a paid for 5-day challenge, where at the end of it and throughout it, actually there's an offer, which is your main offer. So getting people to pay to show that level of commitment, not just to show that level of commitment to you, but again, the psychology of getting them to make a commitment to themselves, where they say to themselves subconsciously, I invest in solving this solution. That's a very powerful thing to be doing. So that's one of the things. Another thing I'm seeing working really, really well is for sales calls. What we used to do is we used to always, when we were installing these into people's businesses or doing stuff ourselves for like our masterminds or agency services, when we used to have an agency, which we don't do anymore, but we would always do this. We would always have it so that people would say, yes, I want to have a call. So we'd send them to an application form, and if they qualified, we'd then send them to the calendar link to actually book the call. And that makes logical sense. But we made a change which really, really significantly upped our number of bookings and the quality of those bookings. And that was to switch the application form and the calendar around. So now what happens is the call to action on the piece of content or whatever is to say, go book a call. And what happens is if they go to the call, if they go to that link and are faced with an application form, it's like, oh, that's a bunch of effort to get to the thing I want, because the thing I want is to book a call. But I'm getting in the way by saying, but to book a call, you need to fill out this application form. So we're not satisfying the thing that they want. But we are dangling behind it. Oh, you can have this thing that you want if you do the thing that you don't want to do. It's like, you can have your dessert if you go and tidy your bedroom, young Charlie, right? It's like that. But it's not as powerful as, you want to book a call. Awesome. Book the call. The calendar pops up. Okay. I choose the date. I choose the time. I put my name and email address in. I click go. I've booked my call. Then on the next page, it says, awesome, you've booked your call. To qualify for the call, you need to complete this application form, because we find that people who complete the application form are much more focused and they actually get better results. And for that reason, anybody who doesn't fill out the application form, we will cancel your call. Us human beings are way more psychologically motivated by when someone says they're going to take something away from us than if we are going to gain something. So if I said to you, dude, I've got $5 for you. I'm at the, I'm just like 20 minutes down the street. Do you want this $5? You'd be like, no man, I'm good. Just get yourself a coffee, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or try for $5. But if I said to you, dude, I'm 20 minutes down the street and I just stole this $5 off your desk in your office, you'd be out the front door running down the street to get that $5 off me. Why? Because we put a lot more value in stuff that was ours and is being taken away from us.
Gotcha.
That's a natural inbuilt human tendency that we all have. So if you can give somebody something, and if you want somebody to do something, give them something and threaten to take it away, it's way more powerful. So we're evoking that same psychological premise by saying, the thing you want, here it is. And then you give it to them, they book the call. On the next page, we're like, we're going to take that away from you. We're going to take away the sweeties unless you do unless you tidy your room. And that's working very, very well.
I love that. See, I think my business is one of the very few ones that I found that doing that has a higher cost per booked call. And the only rationale that I can think is with it being such a high skepticism market, like Facebook ads, that it's almost like, look how easy he's making it to get on this call. It must be an absolute pitch fest. Like, yes, that's the only rationale I can have with that one.
Yes, and I think there's another thing at play here as well, which is where you are presenting that.
Mm,
So, for example, if you're doing a book a call offer at the end of a webinar, they've already had to go
I do it that way as well for webinars.
through the webinar. You would probably convert better because they know they've already been through through the gauntlet of having to register for a webinar, attend the webinar. They know that, okay, like he's making it so that not everybody can get in. I think that will work well. But yeah, straight from ads, straight to find a time on my calendar, actually damages your positioning. It
Hmm.
means anybody can actually just book a call, and that's not good. I think if you say this is invitation only because you've done something, which is register and attend a webinar,
Hmm.
then I think it's going to definitely be that way around. If there is no gatekeeping, then you want to do application first because the application becomes the gatekeeper. So
Yeah,
yes, that's a really good clarification.
yeah. The only two spaces where we do the calendar is masterclass live, and we would send them directly to calendar. In fact, I don't even get them to fill in a form on the other side. My reasoning with it is they've signed up, they've obviously put time aside, they've made an effort to be there, they've stayed to the end, and when I went into a pitch, they still wanted to be a part of it. So I'm kind of like, I'm not
And the numbers
about
always
making
trump
it
everything,
difficult for
right?
them.
So the results are the results, and you and I always say this. Like you can try this thing, but your results are going to be different. You might find this is working, you might find that's not working. One of the questions that's really powerful in our form that I know a few people now have adopted because they really like this wording. So if we have a program that is $5,000 on the form, the last question is something like to implement the advice we give you on the call. We recommend that everyone has a budget of at least $7,000, a bit more than we're
Mm,
going to charge. How would you find the funds for this? And so we're saying very clearly that you are going to need some money to be able to implement this stuff. Because obviously, sometimes you get on a call and you're like, actually, this person's completely wrong for this offer. I don't want to work with them, or they're not in the right place, whatever it is. So I'll go and recommend something. But everything we want to do in our business involves investment. That's what business is. It's investing in stuff, education, assets, skills, expertise, services, so that we can leverage that information to make more money. That's all we do in business, right? So, so what we want to do is make sure that that person understands that this is a business thing, and you're going to need some money to invest in implementing the suggestions I give you. And sometimes that will mean that investment is in one of our programs. Some of the times it will be in you need to go and actually go and do this other thing. You need to get a sales page done. Or you need to get a VSL written or whatever it's going to be. So we say that. And then the options we give them are I have it available as cash in bank. I have it available on a credit card. I can get it from somewhere else, or I wouldn't be able to find the money. And if they say I wouldn't be able to find the money, we take them to a page, and I call it the nicest no thank you page in the world. And what we do is because you're only going to make it once, you can be really nice. So all we do here is what a lot of people have. And I think I shared this with you when we last spoke. Is on that thank you page when you've said no, if you've disqualified somebody based on something they've chosen in an automated survey, there is a chance that they could actually still be a good fit because you're just basing it on what they thought in that moment was the right answer for them. So what I do is I really explain and expose the offer on that thank you page. So it's just a video of me going, "Thank you so much for filling out our application. Look, here's the thing. Based only on what you said in that application form, it looks like we may not be a good fit to speak together just right now. And I would hate to waste your time. But that's only based on what you said in that application form. And I know your picture of what you've got going on is a lot more nuanced than just that. So I thought I would tell you what's actually involved in some of our programs, and then you can make a decision. So our program involves doing this and this and this. This is the price point, and this is the solution it gives you to these problems. Now that you know all of that information and you feel like it might be a good fit for you, there is a button below where we can confirm your call, and we'll still have the call. Otherwise, we'll just go ahead and we'll cancel the call. So we give them the opportunity to step outside the rigidity of the yes/no segmentation of an unhuman form.
hmm. I absolutely love that. That's such a good way to do it. We do disqualification as well for when we don't feel that it's the right fit, and part of it is an automated process. I think that's a dynamite way to redirect people versus just quite simply like it's not a good fit for this reason. Like we try and be as nice as possible as well, and then we always point them to YouTube. So we're like, so maybe some of our free content would be best for you at this stage. But what you said there is a great way for that person who says something. Let's just say it's, how much revenue do you have in the business right now? It's zero. Now, that actually isn't something that disqualifies from us, but as an example, zero in the business. If that's a disqualifier, it might be because they've just sold their other business for 2.5 million and this
Yep.
is a brand new entity.
Yeah, and that's exactly the reason we don't disqualify on the current revenue of business. We say you need this amount to be able to invest in a solution. How will you find the money? And we get a lot of people saying, I have it elsewhere. Fine. Which means I've got cash in bank, I've inherited it, I've just exited a business, this is my side hustle, but I'm growing up, so I've got another income. Like my husband,
Mm,
my wife, my partner, my whoever, my son is funding me. That's fine.
that is absolutely class. Well, on that note, my man, I think this is probably already over an hour anyway, and I can hear my son and my wife has just come down. I don't know if you can actually hear in Riverside. I know Zoom blanks it out, but you might have heard some crying downstairs. So I'll be rocking down. But I just want to first of all say a massive thank you. As always, I love chatting to you just as a human being and bouncing ideas with you. This has been wildly, wildly valuable for everybody. Hit everybody up here with where they can go. We'll obviously put any links down below as well for YouTube so that people can go through and click through. But where is the best places where they can find you and find out more?
Yeah, so go over to Facebook, search for the Email Marketing Show community. We're always hanging out in there. Bring your questions about how you want to apply this stuff. There's a bunch of training in there, which is just there for you to pick up and go and make more sales from the leads and the subscribers you've already got. Like, you've got them on your list already. Let's make the most out of them, right? So that's what we're all about. And when you join that group, you will have the option, and it is an option, to put your email address in and get these daily emails. Look at how we take you through that score engine. See the Trust Accelerator in live action. See it all happen, because we do what we teach. We practice what we preach, and we only teach the stuff that we've tested the hell out of. So the Email Marketing Show community is one of the best places to go for. And of course, if you want to listen to a podcast about a guy who swears a lot, and I've been pretty PG on this, I think, but swears a lot and talks about email marketing, then search for the Email Marketing Show on hopefully YouTube by the time you hear this and see this, but definitely on all your podcast players. That's the Email Marketing Show.
Fantastic. So we'll put a link to that. We'll put a link to the podcast, the group, and how to join the emails as well individually if you've got a link for that. And we'll put all three down below in the show notes.
Dreamy.
Dreamy. Excellent. Right. Well, we'll do this about once a quarter if it's good for you. And we'll bounce on what's working and maybe make some of our private calls more YouTube based moving forward. But dude, thank you so much. Appreciate you millions. And I know everybody's going to love this.
Pleasure. Thanks, everyone.